Hello everyone, it's Shannon here. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, we are going to create a wobble card, but we're actually going to make the wobble mechanism ourselves. And we're going to combine that wobble mechanism with some really awesome stamps from Honeybee Stamps. This is Hope the Hedgehog stamp set. We'll be using that as well as the matching dies. Also, we'll be using the Cheering for You stamp set for our sentiment. So here's our wobble card in action with our DIY wobble mechanism. As you can see, Hope wobbles so beautifully, such a fun and cute interactive card. And what I love about wobbles is that they collapse completely down, so when you put this in an envelope, it's very flat and will mail beautifully. So we're just going to dive right in and start with our wobble. So I have cut 4 circles already. These circles are a little bit larger than an inch. The size of the circle doesn't matter so much. It needs to be bigger than the width of a pencil. And I cut these circles using a circle or ball die from the Hope the Hedgehog matching die set, and now I'm just going to punch a circle or punch a hole in 2 of the circles. I'm using a hole punch, but you could also just use your die pick and press right through the circle that way. And now I'm going to use this wire here. This is florist wire. It is 26 gauge. It's a pretty thin wire, and I'm just going to wrap it around several times around this pencil. I actually wrapped this around 9 times. So I'm just wrapping it around. Don't worry here about getting it really, like your wire really close to each other. You're going to kind of squish this down and make it close in a minute. So now that I've wrapped it around, I'm going to grab my wire clippers here and just clip the wire. This is the same wire clippers that I use to separate my dies, and once I've clipped that, now I'll just kind of push down on the top of that and that wire and kind of collapse it. You can kind of twist it a little bit too if it's not kind of getting as tight as you want it to be. And that's pretty much it for our main component of our wobble. You just basically kind of created a little spring here. Now that we've created our spring, I'm going to grab the spring here and take the end and feed it through the hole on one of the punched circles. So once I get it through, I'll kind of flip this over and take that excess wire and kind of curl it back on itself, just kind of collapsing down the excess wire, and you can see it kind of curled. It also kind of holds that wire in place a little bit better as well. Then I'm going to grab some Micropore tape here, pull off a piece, and actually kind of cover over that excess wire. So I'll just cut it here down to like a little square. I'm going to save the other half for my other end of my spring and just cover it over. You don't need to do this step if you don't have Micropore tape. I wouldn't recommend washi tape though, because you definitely want to make sure that if you do this, you use a very sticky tape. I'm now going to take my tape runner here and add adhesive all over the back side of one of the circles that isn't punched. So just all over there, make sure it's really, really sticky and I get it well covered. And then once I get it all covered, I'm going to go ahead and cap off the end of my wobble here. And that's going to create a really great surface for either my image or for placing this wobble on my card base. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other circles. So I'm going to feed that wire spring end through my hole, then kind of curl that wire back on itself, and then I'll grab a piece of my Micropore tape. Again, if you don't have tape, like really sticky tape, you can skip this step, and then I will add adhesive all to the back side of my die cut circle and cap off my wobble. Now I want to make sure you guys know that I did use 110-pound white cardstock, and I definitely recommend you using a heavyweight cardstock for your circles for your wobble, because it just gives it more support. And that actually completes my wobble there. You can see it's all ready to go, and it's already ready to use. You can see it already starting to wobble, and we can actually put this on a card right now. And I did want to note that the circles don't have to be an inch big. They just need to be bigger than the diameter of a pencil, or the size, the diameter of your spring. So that's the only requirement of those circles. So now I'm going to work on the card. The first thing I do is going to create my background, and I first stamped a sentiment from the Cheering for You stamp set in VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and now I'm going to repeat stamp a very simple tone-on-tone background using the football from the Hope the Hedgehog stamp set, and I'm inking it up in Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide and just hand stamping this really randomly over an A2 panel of some green cardstock. tone-on-tone backgrounds are really a great way to kind of create a themed background that isn't going to be too busy and won't compete with your focal image. So now that it's all stamped, I'm actually going to trim down this green panel about 1/8 of an inch on all the sides, just so it's a little bit smaller than an A2 panel and has a nice border when you place it onto an A2 top folding card base. So I'm now going to add some adhesive to the back side of this panel and just stick it down onto my A2 top folding card base made from 110-pound white cardstock. So I'm now going to move on to coloring my images. I went ahead and stamped Hope and this megaphone here in Memento Tuxedo Black onto some white cardstock, and now I'm going to color them in with my Copics. The colors I'm using are on screen so you can follow along. I'm starting with my lightest shade, which is E51 here, and coloring all of Hope's body, even the bottom of her feet and the inside of her ears. Then I'm going to take my medium shade here and just kind of do the outside edges. I am doing kind of a flick motion with my brush end of my Copic. This is just going to give it a feathery look and help with blending, and I'm going to go all over. Very simple, very basic Copic coloring here. And now moving on to my darkest shade, and again using kind of a flick motion, not going quite as far as I did with my medium shade, kind of going back, keeping closer to the edge. And I'm going to go all around here with this, and I wish I had kind of a color in between my medium shade and my darker shade here, because this one was a little bit harder to blend out, but I was able to make it work. And now I'm going back through my color. So this is my medium shade. I'm going back over. I'm really focusing on going over where the dark shade and the medium shade meet, and that will help kind of blend out that transition. And now I have the lightest color, and here I'm focusing on going over where the light and the medium meet and kind of blending that out. Now I'm moving on to some darker browns here for kind of her, I guess, her quills. And I'm going all over with my lightest shade. I always start with my lightest shade first. Once I got that down, I'm moving on to my medium shade. And again, always kind of doing that kind of flicking motion with the brush tip of my Copic. This kind of helps to make it, kind of feathers the edge a little bit and makes it easier to blend out. Now I'm moving on to my darkest shade, and I'll go all the way around, kind of finishing up her quills, right? I think they're quills or pins, I'm not sure. And once I finish that, I'll go back through my colors again. So I've just finished up the dark here, and I'm going back through with my medium, kind of blending out that transition from the medium to the dark, and then I'll grab my lightest dark brown and blend where the light and the medium meet and kind of blend that out. And I'll use those same 3 colors for her nose as well. So I quickly did her tongue, and now I'm going to finish up the megaphone with a couple of yellows, keeping it really kind of bright, because this is a really fun sporty card, and I want nice bright really pops of color. So just used a 3 colors here, light, medium, dark of yellow, and just really quickly colored that megaphone. So I went ahead and cut out these images with the matching dies, and now I'm going to glue the megaphone onto Hope's hand here with some liquid glue. Then I'm going to kind of figure out where that wobble needs to be. I'm just basically putting it right in the center. Grabbed some liquid glue, placed it on the card front, dropped my wobble in place, and now I'm just added some glue to the top of my wobble, and then I'll stick Hope down, hold her down for a few seconds. And as you can see, she's already wobbling right away. I'm going to grab my some Nuvo crystal drops. This is Morning Dew, so it's clear. And I'm just going to add a tiny amount to her eyes and her nose, and this is just going to give a little dimension, a little shine, just a little bit more interest to the front of this card. So now that I've let the Nuvo crystal drops completely dry, I will hold up to the camera so you can get a good look at this fun interactive wobble card. As you can see, there's our wobble there, and when we press down, it kind of collapses almost completely flat, and yet it pops right up when you would pull it out of the envelope. And when you just flick your finger there, you've got a lot of wobbling, lots of motion. It's super fun, and I'm actually really surprised how well this wobble worked. Here is another one. I did this one was more of the soccer theme, and I've got a third one here. I also want to note that The floral wire that I used was really, really cheap. I think a little bit over $2. And it is, I've got, I think, 270 feet, something like that. So I can make wobbles for days. So I am so excited about discovering making my own wobbles, and I can't wait to start adding wobbles much more into my card designs. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and card. Thank you so much for watching. If you want any more information on the products I use, please check the links below, and I hope you have a wonderful day.